Okay, so here we are looking at the adjusting part of the swing arm where we're going to be working. A note about exhaust systems. If you have the stock exhaust on your Raider, you're going to have to move or remove the mufflers of the bike. You don't have to remove the whole exhaust system, but you will definitely have to remove this portion of the system to be able to get to the adjusting bolts and the axle nut. Now, on this particular bike, we've got the Vance & Hines 2-into-1 pipe, and we have to remove just the heat shield from the rear section, which will allow us easy access to the part that we have to work with. And then if you have other exhaust systems, you might have to remove something. And for shorty pipes, you won't have to remove anything at all. All right, let's zoom in on the part where we actually have to work. Okay, what we're looking at here, this is the rear axle bolt. The rear axle bolt we're going to have to loosen so that we can get some free play in there. And then these here are the adjustment bolts. What we're looking at, this is the lock nut, and then this is actually the adjuster. And one more very important thing, you see these little hash marks here on the adjuster, and then there's this hash mark here on the swing arm. That's going to allow us to see just how much we're going to be moving the axle either forward or backward to adjust the tension. This part here is on both sides of the motorcycle, and you have to make sure that you move the adjusters the exact same amount on both sides of the bike, or the wheel won't run true or straight, and it can cause all kinds of problems. So one of the most important things about this is that if you're going to make an adjustment, you do it the same on both sides of the bike. Okay, so the first step is to loosen that axle bolt, and we don't need to take the wheel off, so we're not going to loosen all the way. We just have to loosen it enough so that we can get some free play in the axle. All right, so what we're going to do here, loosen that up a bit, and that's about it. That's all we need to do. Yep, all right. Next step here is to loosen the lock nuts that are holding everything really, really tight and snug in place. All right, that's this one over here, and it's on both sides of the bike. So let's get in there and see if we can loosen that up a bit. All right, so what we're going to do is we loosen that just enough so that we get some play. And once you've got it loosened, you should be able to manipulate it a little more with your wrench. All right, as you can see now, we've got that lock nut loose enough so that now we have some play that we can adjust the wheel with. Now, on this particular bike, we know that the belt is loose, so we want to move the axle towards the rear of the bike. And what that means is that the adjuster is going to have to turn from the top of the nut out. If you were looking at it from this way, it would be counterclockwise, but since you can't see it that way, basically we want to turn the top of the adjuster towards us. Now, it's very important to note that when you're doing that, we're going to note how far we move it on this side, because we have to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So we get in there, and actually you could even start to move it with your fingers, but you're going to need the wrench. So you get it in there, and you will definitely feel some resistance on there. And again, it's a tight squeeze because of the exhaust, but that's how we're going to adjust it. And then we're going to go around to the other side and do exactly the same thing. Before we're on the other side of the bike, I just wanted to show you guys this. Notice the amount of movement. You can actually really see what we're doing here. Every time we turn the adjusting screw, watch how much movement we get over here. As we're turning that bolt counterclockwise, you can really see the difference in what we're doing here. It's a small amount of movement, but it makes a heck of a big difference. All right, we're on that third large hash mark on this side, which is a duplicate of where we are on the other side of the bike. All right, so we've played around with the adjustment a little bit, and what we want to do now is we want to take our belt tension gauge again and double check the slack on the belt. And what we'll do is we'll take our gauge and we'll exert some pressure, and if we take a look, now we're just about at 15. Now again, with the bike on a stand, you want to be between 14 and 23, so I think we're really good here. Now what I want to do is The other thing we should do is double check both sides of the bike. And again, we do have those hash marks on the adjuster, but I like to take a tape measure just to double check. And what we'll do is measuring from the swing arm to the same point on both sides. Right now, we're about 1 inch and 1 1/16 inch. And we just double checked it on the other side, and that's where we are. So we're done with our adjustment. All we have to do now is tighten down these lock nuts on both sides of the bike. Alright, so we've gotten our lock nuts down, snug against the adjuster on both sides of the bike. Finally, last step, and I can't stress how important this is, we have to tighten that axle bolt. It's a good thing it's only on one side of the bike, but the axle bolt has to be tightened per the maintenance manual specification to 110 foot-pounds. You know, on other things, you know, bolt-on accessories and things like that, I'm not so strict about torque specifications, but when we're talking about driveline components, I'm right there with a torque wrench. So we've got our torque wrench with our 1 1/16 bolt socket on there, and we're going to get in there and we're going to make sure that axle bolt is tight to specification. Now again, it's a tight squeeze, but we got it in there. And now we're going to tighten that bolt down until our wrench clicks. There we are. We got 110 pounds on that rear axle bolt, so we're all set. And again, the only thing now is getting the wrench out of there, which can sometimes be a little tight. Again, depending on the exhaust you got. But we're all set. So we're done. We're going to lower the bike now and take it for a test ride. Make sure we don't hear any whining noises coming from the belt, which happens sometimes. If the belt's not perfectly straight or the rear wheel's not perfectly straight, sometimes it'll whine, and then you got to bring it back up and make some minor adjustments. So we're going to take it out for a test ride. Other than that, we're all set. So ride safe out there, and we'll see you next time.